She's just mean to people.
Confident people surround me wherever I go, and I wish it wasn't out of line to tell them so. The waiter never seems to get my order right. Seems like I got to complain almost every night. How much longer can I take this abuse? I try to be nice, but what's the use when I'm the only one that does anything right? Sometimes it seems like the world is run by chimpanzees, even though some of them might come with college degrees. It's getting hard to separate the facts from fiction, but I think I can say with obvious conviction that in this old world, everybody's wrong but me.
Welcome to Uncommon Sense. My name is Charlotte Laws, and today we're going to be discussing the war between Russia and Georgia, the political war between McCain and Obama, the fattest man in the world, and how taking the pill can actually lead to divorce. But first, I'd like to introduce my esteemed panelists. We have Mr. Garret Swayne, who is a talented singer-songwriter. And we have Mr. Charles Parselle, who is a very intelligent lawyer and happens to be my husband. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And the first thing I thought we'd talk about was the election. And recently there was a forum in Orange County at Saddleback Church that was hosted by Rick Warren. And did you get a chance to see this? And I wanted to see what your thoughts are on the performance of the two candidates. And
I saw the Cliff Notes version of it. I did see a good bit of it, but not all of it. I taped it though. I'll watch it later.
Well,
Ask me tomorrow.
Ask you tomorrow.
I saw
I
saw a fair amount of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too.
I mean, I was just wondering what your take on it was. I mean, my feeling was that when I saw Obama perform, I thought he did an excellent job, and I thought at the time there was no way McCain could actually do better than Obama. And I was extremely wrong. I was absolutely shocked that McCain actually did a better job than Obama. And what I saw is the difference is Obama was very much from his head and very kind of like a professor speaking, whereas McCain was gritty and down to earth and from his heart. And I think that was the contrast. You know, Obama was also talking to Rick Warren, whereas McCain was talking to the audience and to the people out there. And so it really was a stark contrast as far as I was concerned.
Well, I thought that I thought both of them did.
Yeah, they both did a great job.
I thought they both did a good job, and I thought that I think that in general, I'm pretty pleased that this is the first election in my lifetime where I think that we have. Both parties have, I think, chosen their best candidate, and we had, I think they're both thoughtful, well-intentioned people, and it's just a question of the nation deciding which way, which basic philosophy they want to go. Either kind of like the.
Well, I think that I think perception is a lot to do with it, and it's kind of interesting because when I look back at previous elections, you look at somebody like Kerry or Gore, who are kind of stiff and more kind of see more from their head. Or you look at Dukakis, you look at some of these candidates and they didn't win. And the guy that's more down to earth and more, with the people and gritty is the one who actually wins the election. And Bill Clinton happens to be very down to earth and kind of and he wins. So I just think when you pair it up, I mean, maybe this is wrong, but I was kind of looking back and I was looking at George H. Bush versus Bill Clinton. Well, you could see that Bill Clinton would win, but you look at George H. Bush versus Dukakis, you'd say, oh, George H. Bush would win over Dukakis, and you start kind of pairing them up.
Whoever is the least packaged-looking candidate is going to win. That's what I think. I mean,
Because it looks more real. Is that why
exactly.
you're saying that?
People are so sick of this.
You have nothing to say today. I see. You just want a nap. Is that right?
Yeah,
I'm
He
happy
was
to
taking a nap before the show, and that's what you really want to be doing right now.
I'm very happy to make a comment. Obama is an intellectual. His answers are far more nuanced. They reflect a greater perception of the world. In a debate, it's quite good to give black and white answers, because debates are, in their nature, contests, fisticuffs really. So John McCain did better in the debating contest because he has simplistic answers to most questions. As a ruler, perhaps we shouldn't say ruler.
As a ruler.
As a ruler, perhaps we shouldn't say that. As a president, no, we
You come from England, so all you know is rulers.
yes. Well, actually, the Queen doesn't rule.
I know.
I'm sure you know that.
Right.
But what you need in a ruler is not necessarily what you need in someone who can engage in the fisticuffs of debate. I agree John McCain did well in the debate, and if I was Obama's advisor, I would get him in a dark room, and a heavily lit room like this one, and coach him. Because
I don't think you can. I don't think you can. I think he's doing a great job. I think he's doing as best as he can do. It's not his personality to be like John McCain. That's all it is. It's a different kind of personality.
Well, it's certainly
And this wasn't even a debate. These were 2 interviews.
No, excuse me.
It's true.
This is not a question of something that can't be changed in debating. With coaching, anything can be changed with coaching, and Obama needs a different style in order to beat McCain in the debates. I have great respect for John McCain, but John McCain is very much a cold warrior. He's a 72-year-old man, the rich white male. I think the whole world, as well as I hope the whole American electorate, and I'll be casting my vote whichever way you tell me, Charlotte, as usual.
Well, we should disclose you're actually voting for Obama.
I hope
you're voting for McCain.
Right now, it looks like
everyone's
voting
looking
for
for that
McCain,
type
so.
of change. But this man, whom I hope we will elect, is very thoughtful and reflective, and has run one of the most brilliant campaigns ever run, coming from behind to take the Democratic nomination with all the potential difficulties that he faces. He's run the campaign that makes you realize that he could be a brilliant executive.
But he's tied in the polls right now with McCain.
Well,
and his
what we
lead
expect.
is evaporated.
It's absolutely what we expect, because this country is so closely divided between the red states and the blue states that you would expect.
Well, actually, there's 30%. 30% of the people are independents in this country.
Whatever that may be the case, but the people who are answering, when it gets down to the crunch, this country is fairly evenly divided, and we would not expect anyone to sweep. Even one of the great presidents of modern times, John F. Kennedy, won by a minority of the votes. So you're not looking at it for anyone to get an 80% vote. It's just never going to happen.
No, I understand that, but I'm just saying he's lost ground. And so if it's such a great campaign, why has he lost ground in the last month? And I think it's because he has been defined by the Republican Party as this kind of elite professor-type, wimpy type guy. I mean, that's what he's been defined
I don't
as.
think he's losing because he's being perceived as elite or wimpy. My sense is that Obama, in order to get the nomination on the Democratic Party, had to really basically stake out some really extreme left-wing, if you will, positions that really don't make sense in the world, like the surge won't work, let's not, and a lot of those positions have been discredited in recent months, certainly. And so, sensibly, Obama is kind of navigating back toward the center. It's a question of whether he'll be able to do it. And I agree with you, Charles, that he gives very intelligent, nuanced answers, and I totally appreciate that because the decisions that the president is going to have to make are very nuanced. I just happen to think that McCain is also quite capable of that as well. But the reason that
I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, well, I think if Obama will sit down and have some some town hall meetings as McCain is proposing, we might see.
I think Obama.
But the point I was going to make is that the reason that Obama has been slipping in the polls is that people, he's really had some kind of very nebulous positions that the McCain campaign is really pointing out now that, where's the meat on this
Right.
bone,
and that's
so-
part of the
right.
hope idea is not to define too much what your
Well, he's going to have to.
policies are.
If he continues to do what he's doing, he will lose. He's going to
Yeah.
have to really come out and flesh out his
But
positions
see, I don't think
more.
he can do that
I
because the
think he
whole
can. He
idea
might be able
is
to.
hope. And if you start coming down to details, then you're going to alienate many of the voters because they're not going to like those details. So I think that's going to backfire. But my view is that Obama's too much like Bush. I bet you haven't heard that one. You've heard that one because I've told you. But the reason being is because Bush, I feel, went in inexperienced, as Obama is.
Right.
And so he has this opportunity. I mean, he could be manipulated, in my view, like Bush has been manipulated. He can be manipulated by his party, just as Bush has been manipulated by his party, in my view. Whereas McCain is known as this rebel maverick, who cares about the Republican Party? I'm going to do my own thing. He was even going to, leave the Republican
I couldn't
Party.
disagree more with that. And I'd like to say that
You could try, but you could.
for the Republicans, I got to hand it to them. I think labeling Obama as elitist is a kind of such a brilliant lie that it takes your breath away when you consider that John McCain's married to a woman with $100 million or maybe a lot more in the bank. That John McCain does not even know how many homes he has, but research reveals that he has 7.
You know what? That is completely a non-issue. In
it's
fact, I
it's
wrote on a blog this morning
it's a
about
total
how
issue.
it's not an issue because when
It's a complete issue.
I think about how many
Obama-
houses I have.
Obama is a child.
I can't even remember. I even got it
Obama is
wrong
a child
this
from
morning.
from a broken home, a mixed marriage, brought up in a broken home, and has made it on the strength of his brilliance alone.
I know, but the elite
No,
doesn't.
he wasn't the son of an admiral and the grandson of an
I
admiral.
know, but elite.
To call him an elitist is. Oh, do you mean? Oh, you mean? He can. I mean, evidently.
elitist in this context
Can
means-
someone who can count to 7? Because John McCain can't count out the
You
number.
are
of
so
houses
rude.
he
You are
has.
rude.
That's
No,
it.
If he can.
Elitist means that you are an academic. That's the context here. It's kind of like, as I said, like Gore, it's kind of like this idea of, oh, I am part of the ivory tower. I am part of the academic world. That's
Meaning
what's
a sense of
meant by-
superiority.
Yeah, that's what's meant by elitist, not that he comes from necessarily an elite
So
background.
McCain goes to the Naval Academy, I believe it was.
Right.
The elitist Naval Academy. What Barack gets to Harvard on his own merit, and then he goes to work as an inner city lawyer. He goes to work for the poor. What's elitist about that?
I'm not saying it. I'm not making the argument.
Oh,
I'm
good.
just telling you this is the argument that is made, is that he's more of an academic, that he's more, that he kind of has this idea that he's superior.
I don't think that's a winning formula for the Republicans.
It's been working.
No, I don't think so. I think to me, the candidate that's going to win is the one who was able to more project the impression that. The one who will lose is the one who is more perceived to be the one who. How do I phrase this? Who what I get the sense about McCain is that he would not compromise his integrity he would rather lose the election than compromise his integrity on misrepresent. I've seen McCain embrace positions that have pissed off his party. I haven't seen Obama do the same. Obama pretty much adheres to the party orthodoxy, and that is what they will ultimately tag him with. And unless he can dance away from that and show and actually take some really strident, breaks from the party orthodoxy, I think McCain will be the one who will win is the one who's perceived as more of the maverick.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Because
I
that's what we
sincerely
need.
hope. I don't think the country's that stupid. I really don't.
Okay,
This
we have to
the-
go to the next topic.
And so let me just say, another
Okay.
sign of Obama's executive abilities is that he has raised money on the internet from more than 2 million people. No one has ever achieved that before. It's a brilliant feat. And he's raised 5 times as much money.
Well,
as John
she should
McCain.
be Treasury Secretary then.
The next
I'm
topic
sure
is
he'll pick-
divorce.
Okay.
So actually, it's the pill, and and what they've discovered. In fact, this was a study in England, is that women normally go for men who have a different immune system from themselves. But when a woman takes the pill, then it makes them choose a man who has a similar immune system, which then leads to divorce, because when the woman stops taking the pill, she goes, I don't want to be married to this guy anymore, and she loses her interest in the man.
What do you mean by immune system?
It's something to do with your makeup. You know, I'm not quite sure exactly the details about what it involves.
What kind of makeup
but
do you use, Charles? I
like
just
a
use
little-
like thin base.
A little blush.
Little
Isn't
blush.
that the thing to say?
That's right.
And it's also bad for children because they don't get the different immune systems are actually healthier for a child. You know, it's like when you have a dog, you know, and the dog is a mutt, they say it's a healthier overall animal than an animal that's a purebred.
Yeah, right.
So it's the same kind of concept. So
Cross-pollinating the genetic pool.
exactly. So I thought that was pretty interesting because, you know, the divorce rates are like 50% for a first marriage, and they're even higher for second and third marriages.
And are they all on the pill, the poor girls?
A lot of women are. I've never taken the pill, but a lot of women
You
do
haven't?
take the pill. I've never taken it. That's why we're still married, dear.
Ah, that's good.
And then there's another study, which I thought was pretty interesting too, which has to do with the brains of homosexual men and straight women have the same kind of brains, but lesbian women and heterosexual men have
similar types of-
similar. They have like the right hemisphere is larger. And so I just think this is interesting because this again adds substance to the determinism versus free will debate, of which I always take the determinism side, as we all know. And this all adds to substance to that you don't really necessarily choose your partner. It actually has to do with other factors, or your, you know, obviously your sexual orientation, which, you know, many people have argued for a long time doesn't have to do with choice.
So you're saying that gay men's brains resemble that of straight women,
Yeah.
and lesbian women's brains resemble that of straight men. That makes
I
sense
think
to
this
me.
is quite.
This is really
this is-
of
this is
great
one of-
import, isn't it?
I mean, it's quite ridiculous.
I think we're ready to move
it's
to
I
the...
don't quite-
interesting, though.
It may
I
be,
mean-
but you know, this reminds me of what they were doing 100 years ago, craniology.
Right.
You know, this.
There's actually a lot. I mean,
The
I mean,
humors.
I think it's all very well to do this research, but then to make a very sweeping generalization, you know, which will then lead to some kind of weird social policy being formulated. No, this is where you jump out of science into some kind of odd political conclusion. I don't accept.
well, I'm not jumping out of science. I'm saying this is more evidence for the cause and effect, which is determinism, cause and effect, you know, creating.
You want to talk about free will?
Well, I don't want to talk about it. I'm just making
No.
I'm just alluding to that. And before we go to the next topic,
Does-
which has to do
Does
with,
the audience know that that you wrote a whole dissertation on the subject of free will?
I
and
don't know, but
determinism?
now they
Yeah.
do.
Now they
Now
do.
they
Now they do. So it's an important topic to me.
And once again, you've chosen the wrong side of that debate.
Now I'm on the right side, dear. But now we have Russia and Georgia, and I'm curious as to your feelings on this. I know you actually have some. Go ahead and tell me what you think about this, and what do you think the
Well,
motives
can I
are?
say, I hope that Mississippi and Alabama don't get involved.
That's right. That would
because
be a bummer.
That would be bad. Yeah, right.
I hear they're in South Carolina already.
Aren't you from Georgia?
I am from Georgia.
that's what I thought.
I'm from United States, Georgia. Yes.
Georgia is a very, very, very tiny country. It has 4 million people. It's so far out of the European sphere of influence that it really was, in my judgment, irresponsible for the Americans to give so much encouragement to the Georgians. Georgia is right next to Russia. It's thousands of miles away from anyone.
What were
Well,
we
they say
encouraging?
they say
Oh,
they didn't encourage.
What
Well,
were we
they
encouraging
have-
them to do?
They have been very encouraging to the Georgians to cock a snook, if I can use that
What is
expression.
it? What does
to
that mean?
cock a
We're
snook,
going to have to bleep that out.
What does cock a snook mean?
to thumb their noses at the Russians.
Oh.
You know, the New York lawyer who's become the president
Oh.
of Georgia made a point of flying to Washington on numerous occasions, photograph with the president, all that kind of stuff. That makes the Russians nervous. You know, it's for one thing to say the Russians, you know, the Soviet Union got disbanded.
Right.
The Russians essentially at that time abandoned the Cold War. It's quite another thing to make them feel humiliated.
Exactly.
And the Georgians, you know,
Well-
could have got on quite well. You know, they're right next to Turkey.
He and Gorbachev are the only ones that stand up for Russia. So it's
Well,
kind of
no, no,
amazing to
I mean-
actually hear.
No, the Europeans are very concerned.
But he has a
about this.
point. No, I absolutely take Georgia's side. I think I don't know what the Russians are thinking.
No, I agree with you. So I'll just finish this.
Yeah.
I do not for a moment, I'm talking about the provocation. The provocation does not justify what happened,
Exactly.
which was
Right.
the invasion of a sovereign state
Right.
by the Russians. But it's a huge problem that could have been avoided. That's all.
But
Well, they
were
were
it not
waiting, I
for,
mean-
were it not for the stupidity of our commander-in-chief, George Bush.
Well, I mean, I don't know, because the government, maybe they're lying, but they say that they didn't encourage, that they told Georgia not to do anything to upset Russia. And the truth of the matter
But the
is
whole-
even a month before the war, there were attacks on Georgian websites there was already this internet attacks that
Yeah,
kind
but
of...
this has been going on for
and
several.
Russia was
It's been
getting
going for
ready
a long
for
time.
They
It's
were
been go-
waiting
This
for
has been
a
going on
moment.
for a long time, for years and years. The situation in the two breakaway areas, as they're called, South Ossetia and the other one, Azerbaiján, something like that,
Yeah.
has been going on for a long time, and it's very provoking for the Georgians.
Do they
but
not-
it's one of those situations where, they have to suck it up for a long time.
Who has to suck it up?
Well, the Georgians are trying to were trying to gain
Control of the
over these
breakaway
provinces.
areas.
of these areas, South Ossetia, which are predominantly Russian.
Russian.
Ethnics.
And
they want to be part of
And
Russia.
they want to be part of Russia. So this was obviously for
See, I
a
just-
long
I think
time a
there's
very
more to
delicate
it. I mean,
situation.
I've been-
agree.
I've been telling you
the
for a
Russians
very-
are completely wrong to have invaded, and
Right.
now the West has to make a response. But
Exactly.
it would have been a wonderful thing if that could have been avoided.
Of course.
And I think it could
But
have been
see,
avoided if the Georgian president hadn't been so cozy with
See, I don't think
with
so. I
DC.
think that Putin, I told you for many, many years, I've told you about my intuitive bad feeling about Putin. And I don't actually think, I'm not even sure really what this is about, because I don't think it's just about Georgia. I think that he's got much more nefarious purposes. Personally, that's what I think. I'm not sure if this is partially about oil. I don't know if it's just about we hate America and we want to do whatever we can to get the West. I don't know if it has to do with these territories. I don't think it really does.
It's about regaining the Soviet Empire.
Maybe
But,
so.
you know.
Maybe
Well,
so.
all
A new
motivation-
Cold War. I don't know what this is about. But
Now,
I think it's
since
more
you have
than
to
just
go
about
into
Georgia.
since you have to go into this question of motivation and intention, it's obvious that all motivations are complex and multifaceted. It's about lots of different things, but the sensitivity on our side could have been a lot higher.
I agree with you.
That's all. Russia may be the largest country in the world, but it has an economy roughly 1/20th the size of the United States. It may have crept up to 1/18th or 1/15th,
Well, it's
as a
gonna be
result
like-
of the enormous
Yeah, but they
increase in
have
the
a lot
price of oil.
They
Donald
have
Trump.
the oil
Excuse me,
for Western Europe. It comes from
Russia
that
is
region.
I understand. Russia is the second largest oil producer in
And
the world
they've
right
blocked
now.
the
Yeah, but the Russians.
oil from Georgia now.
Excuse me. The Russians have to sell their oil in order to maintain their
understand.
economy. So this is a two-edged sword for the Russians. They can't. If they stop oil to the Europeans, they stop money to themselves. Russia's economy is very small compared to the European economy. Therefore, you're looking at a complex situation. What I'm saying is that there's a lot of talent in Washington and in Brussels and in the European capitals. This is a situation that, might have been avoided. Now it's happened. It's an invasion of a sovereign country.
Let me speak about
There
this
has
for
to
a
be
second.
something has to happen.
What I absolutely agree with. I agree with both of you, and I don't understand what Russia is thinking and what how they possibly justify all of a sudden jumping onto the most wanted list in the world now. Why all of a sudden they want to jump back to being the bad guys, and I don't know where that's going. But I must agree with you that we've had, I feel, a very, very stupidly run administration for the past 8 years, and they have not managed the relationship with Russia very wisely. That's basically what you're saying.
Yeah, and I would extend that right back to the Clinton administration.
Yeah.
Perhaps. Yeah, I would say. In general, there was a whole attitude in this country after the fall of the Iron Curtain, like, we're number one, we win, you lose. And the fact of the matter is, I think Gorbachev was one of the most visionary people when he said, you know what, our experiment in socialism is really not working. We're ready to liberalize, be more like you. But the intelligent response would have been, you know what, there are certain things we need to learn from your basic model of existence. Then but we didn't feel that we had to learn anything from them. We just felt like, we're number one, we win, you lose, ha ha. And Clinton was guilty of that as well. I thought that we're vindicated, we're right. But the fact of the matter is, there's a whole continuum between the rights of the individual and the rights of the collective. The Soviet Union was way over here on the rights of the collective and ignoring the rights of the individual. We were over here ignoring, or the rights of the individual, ignoring the rights of the collective. We should have moved a little bit more toward that and sort of, acknowledged that there's something about socialism that is valid and important and would be good. So I think the relationship with Russia has been really very badly mismanaged, but that doesn't justify.
We're looking at Poland and we've signed putting the anti-missile defense system in Poland. And Russia has said, that it doesn't preclude nuclear response from Russia, that they can do that. And today, basically one of the generals said that 100%, we're going to attack. We're not just saying words. We're going to attack. And this is 100%.
A couple of days ago, he said that it's going to invite a punishment.
Well, this morning, it was 100% that they're going to attack. So we're going to get drawn into a war, which is really going to hurt our economy potentially if this ends up ballooning into a situation with the Ukraine and Poland and other countries.
Russia cannot justifiably attack a nation just because they put up a fence, because they put up a barrier, they put up a guard. That's just, and if they attack, well then, okay, they're starting World War III. We're going to have to fight it. We can't allow them to intimidate us or to. I mean, we need a better president. We need a smart guy who can repair some of the damage that you were talking about, I think.
I think.
I'm not going to go on to the other topics. You can stay on this topic because we only have a short amount of time left.
You have this odd situation in presidencies like this, where you can't get rid of the leader.
Namely Bush.
Just to say a word in favour of parliamentary system. Parliamentary systems can get rid of a prime minister if that person is not performing, more or less at any time.
Right.
They have to be fairly, it has to be a fairly egregious failure. But parliamentary leaders go, presidents don't. So you're stuck with this guy right through to the end of the term, and really very damaging to the country.
I agree.
Putin is listed as the richest man in the world. They say he's 40 billion.
Putin is rich?
Yeah. Oh yeah, they say he's.
Oh yeah, they say. I don't care for this. These
I believe in
unsupported,
they're smart.
These unsupported assertions. They are 100% certain to attack Poland. Let me make one point that's serious. There's a very big difference between Poland and the Ukraine. Ukraine is formerly a part of the Soviet Union. It's been in the Russian sphere of influence for hundreds of years. Poland's gone to and fro.
I have to shut the show off, but thank you for joining us. I hope we put some uncommon sense into your life. As you putter through your day, remember, everybody's wrong but me. See you next time. We'll talk about these on a future.
It's getting hard to separate the facts from fiction, but I think I can say with obvious conviction that in this old world, everybody's wrong but me. Everybody's wrong to disagree with me. That really chaps my eye. I thought it all through so very carefully. There's no point even considering the other side. Still